Today, we are continuing our season player evaluations for the Dallas Stars. And on today's episode, we'll be covering everything that has to do with Roope Hintz. We'll talk about another electric, nearly 40-goal season from Hintz, talk about some health concerns that we maybe should have on our radar, and talk about what the future looks like for the Ace of Spades as he's now entering into his new 8-year contract. All of this coming up on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, the only daily podcast covering the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, your local expert on all things Dallas Stars hockey, coming to you on this Monday, June 12th. And whether this is your first time here or you are a recurring listener, thank you for stopping by and making Locked On Stars your first listen every single day. Be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. We are always free and available, no matter where or how you choose to listen. Appreciate each and every one of you who tune in, even here throughout the offseason where the Stars might not be playing games, but there's still plenty to discuss as we continue on our series through player evaluations for the past season. And we've talked about several key players, but saving one here for the middle of the series, one who has become a fan favorite over the past few seasons here in Dallas. Of course, talking about number 24, Roope Hintz, who was once again spectacular in the year 2022-2023, setting a new career high in points with 75 in 73 games played. And this was a player who, at the start of the season, I think many of us were concerned that we would be in a similar predicament that we found ourselves with Jason Robertson at this time last year, thinking, all right, here we have this, stud player, a guy who is pretty much a star player in the NHL, just in terms of production and scoring ability. But we were concerned that, as his contract was going to be expiring, that we would start to wonder when the negotiations would begin on a new contract and when we could expect Hintz to be extended, because it was really the belief of everyone within the Stars organization and the fan base that Roope Hintz was going to be a cornerstone piece for the franchise for several years to come. And thankfully, due to the work of Jim Nill and the rest of the front office, we were able to have those worries erased pretty early on in the season, where we don't have to worry about now here in the summer getting Roope Hintz the extension that, in my mind, he so fittingly deserves. He signed the extension back in November, 8 years, a contract worth $67.6 million. And in my opinion, again, worth every penny for a guy who has just been an incredible offensive threat and really just a dynamic two-way player on both sides of the ice, really ever since he joined the organization, but really over the past handful of seasons, as he's been expected to do more and expected to be in more of a leadership role. He's, taken that on with excellence and played incredibly well over the past few seasons. And I feel like we started to see him really come out and show what he was capable of in the bubble in that run to the Stanley Cup Finals a few years ago. And he's really been a phenomenal player ever since, flexing that two-way ability night in and night out. He can play in just about every situation that the game of hockey can call for: 5-on-5, 5-on-4 shorthanded, and on the power play. He can play in overtime. He can play on the penalty kill. He can play on the power play. There's not really a situation in a game where you can't put Roope Hintz out there and, he won't be able to supply his services. He's a threat on offense in a traditional sense, 5-on-5 power play, but he also, if you let him get going and you give him open space, he can also be a threat shorthanded as well. And he was one of the better shorthanded players on the Stars this season, scoring 3 shorthanded goals and had, 3 shorthanded points. But again, also 21 points on the power play, 9 power play goals, which was second on the team. Everyone ahead of him, who had 13, was tied for first. Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, Jason Robertson, and then Roope Hintz not too far behind with 9 of his own, but also can play a little bit of defense, not just in the shorthanded sense, but can use his size and speed to fly up and down the ice and position himself to break up, a breakaway for the opposing team, or start a breakaway on offense for the Stars. Just a unique blend that really makes him an exciting player to watch every single night for this Stars organization. And as phenomenal as the regular season was, where he really started to hit his stride was in the playoffs, where he put up 24 points, which still to this day at the time of recording is first place in the National Hockey League for players that were in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's currently tied for first with Matthew Tkachuk and Jonathan Marchessault, who are still playing in the Stanley Cup final. So the likelihood of him being surpassed in Game 5 of the Cup final is likely, but still very impressive that Hintz hasn't played in a couple of weeks now, yet he is still at the top and has been at the top for quite some time in points scored. That just goes to show how effective and meaningful he was for the Dallas Stars in their run in the postseason, especially in those first two series against the Minnesota Wild and the Seattle Kraken. He was just nearly unstoppable, especially that Minnesota series where you needed guys to step up after Joe Pavelski's injury. Roope Hintz took matters into his own hands and just absolutely lit it up every single night for this team, which is what you expect to see from a guy like him who, you look at some of the other young players on this, lineup. Jason Robertson, only his second time in the playoffs. Wyatt Johnston, a rookie, only his first time in the postseason. Ty Dellandrea, and you still see some pretty decent numbers from those guys, but you don't expect them to be taking on a bunch of the load. But then you have Roope Hintz, who's 26 years old. He's been in the league for a few years now. He's not really a quote-unquote young player anymore. He's starting to get more into the veteran status, and he started to play like he had earned the veteran status with those 24 points, just coming to play night in and night out and hanging with the best in the league. And that's why his name is up there with the best in the league right now. At the time, early in the playoffs, McDavid, Draisaitl, but now guys like Tkachuk and Marchessault, who have been phenomenal here in the playoffs. And at age 26, Roope Hintz is starting to enter the prime of his career, and he's absolutely set to be a force for this organization for years to come. I feel like the playoffs was just a foretaste of what we can expect from Hintz for the next few seasons, especially now with this contract. I don't necessarily expect him to stop playing hard or to stop being himself. I think now that he has to, he's gotten the money, but now he needs to go out and solidify it and continue to earn it and help bring some championship success back to this club and back to this organization. And I think it was a good sign that the team got as close as they did this year, knowing that they get to run it back with a very similar core with Roope Hintz at the helm, set to be one of the premier players for the Stars over the next handful of seasons. And if this regular season and past playoffs were any indication, there should be plenty of excitement around Hintz, who is one of the more underrated players in this league, seemingly buried on a roster with other star talent. Seems like, Jason Robertson will draw more attention, or last year in the playoffs against Calgary, Jake Ottinger was getting all the attention, but I feel like it's not going to be too much longer before Roope Hintz starts to get looped into that conversation with the national media, with your Jason Robertsons, your Jake Ottingers, and even, the veterans also get a lot of attention on this team. It's not going to be much longer before the rest of the NHL starts to acknowledge Roope Hintz as a star player. And even though he might not be getting all-star bids and things of that nature, I mean, he can go toe-to-toe with the best that this league has to offer on both sides of the ice. And I feel like this was just a foretaste here the past few weeks and past few months against Minnesota and Seattle and Vegas. And then he's really going to continue to explode next season and continue to put himself and the rest of the Stars on the map. Well, coming up next, we're going to continue to talk about Roope Hintz and talk about maybe some health concerns with him going forward. How concerned should we be with the long-term health of Roope Hintz, who has yet to play a full NHL season? We'll talk about that coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by our friends at Athletic Greens and their product AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body can actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. For all the everydayers out there who make our podcast a part of your daily routine, thank you again for tuning in as we get another week started here, continuing to talk about Roope Hintz, who had a fantastic 22-23 season, 75 points in 73 games played, 37 goals, 38 assists, just a jaw-dropping year, awe-inspiring year from Roope Hintz, who doesn't have too many knocks against him in terms of the way he plays. I touched on it in the last segment. I mean, he's really everything you could want in a hockey player. If you're designing a hockey player, creating your own player on a hockey video game, you want to build him like Roope Hintz with a little bit of size, coming in at 6'3", 215, but plenty of speed, good scoring ability, good defensive awareness. You can play him in any situation. So not really too many knocks against the way that Hintz plays the game or his skill set, but really it's his health that I think is something that could be drawing some concern in terms of the longevity of his career, because Roope Hintz has yet to play a full NHL season. He's gotten close. He played 80 games last year in the 21-22 campaign, but he has yet to play the full 82 game schedule. And this was the case this past season as well, as he missed 9 games, played only 73 games, which is still very, very good. Doesn't miss a ton of time, and he hasn't really missed a ton of time in years past when in the grand scheme of things. But when you look at this roster and you say, okay, here are our star players, here are the guys that we need to be seeing the most contributions from, Roope Hintz falls under that category of superstar players for the team and guys that you expect to be getting solid production from night in and night out. And granted, Hintz was a point per game player when he was playing, but he did miss those 9 games, and he's missed games before in the past. And he's one of those players that if he's able to stay healthy and play those full 82 game seasons, he easily surpasses the 40 goal mark and maybe even gets to the 100 point threshold. I know 75 points is still a long ways from that, but obviously 9 games wasn't going to get him those 25 points this season. But you have to imagine that he would have gotten pretty close and probably could have gotten into the 85 and maybe even close to 90 point range if he plays that entire season, and very easily could have gotten 3 goals to get to the 40 goal marker, and gotten the points necessary to continue that climb. He just hasn't quite gotten there yet. And thankfully, none of the injuries as of late have been too severe, just some scrapes and bruises really that have caused him to just miss a few games. And doesn't seem like it's something that is overwhelmingly concerning for the long-term health of his career. But just in terms of a season-to-season basis, you'd like to see him put together some of these complete seasons like we're seeing plenty of other guys do on the team, whether it be Jason Robertson or Jamie Benn or even Joe Pavelski, who, no one would really be surprised if he needed to take some games off, given just how worn down he could be from his career and how many, games he's played and given his age. But yet he's still able to find a way to make it work. And Roope Hintz, I'm not saying that he's sitting out on purpose or, that it's a bad thing. It's just, something that hopefully becomes less of an issue as time continues to go on, because again, he is such a special player and could make such a huge impact when he's out there on the ice. And the team definitely misses him when he's not there. There was that stretch where he didn't play with the team and Tyler Seguin filled in at the center role. And I think Seguin did just fine. And I don't think the team was in a bad spot in Hintz's absence. They were still able to win games and still able to sit atop the division for the most part with him gone. But maybe the team could have built a little bit more distance in that division race if Hintz stays healthier for a longer stretch of time. And, they don't have to come down to the final few games of the season to see if they're going to win the division and determine playoff seeding. Obviously, things worked out fine for the Stars in the playoffs this year in those early rounds. And I don't think that, seeding and home ice advantage played too big of a factor, but you'd like that to maybe be less of something you're concerned about in the late stages of the season. And again, I'm not blaming it all on Hintz. There's some things that the team could have done better in certain situations. And obviously there's a discussion to be had about the overtime troubles and the lack of points there. But if you do have your number one center healthy for all 82 games, I think that does change a few things. And maybe you win some other games that you would have won some games that you otherwise lost. And that could change the overall outlook and end result of the season. But all of that to say that, again, these aren't major health concerns. A lot of the injuries that Roope Hintz has sustained as of late are not long-term, and they haven't been season-altering injuries. But now with his new contract, you would like to see a little bit more season-to-season longevity, and you'd like to see a little bit more consistency with Hintz and his ability to stay in games, which you can only control so much as a player, especially in a sport like hockey where things are 100% chaotic all the time, and some things are very much out of your control. And it could also just be a testament to how hard Hintz plays and the style that he plays in and how much he's used, that sometimes he is going to have to miss some games and take some time off. But hopefully we can see a closer to full workload for Hintz this coming season as he continues to look to be a driving force for this team and being a huge factor for the Stars offense. And even on defense, I think he sets a tone for that top line defensively and really for the rest of the team. There's some other good defensive forwards on the roster, but what Hintz can do in terms of turning the defense into offense is very difficult to replace with the other personnel on the team. So the more that number 24 is out there on the ice, the better. And I know that he hates missing time. He obviously loves the game, loves playing for this team, and plays with a ton of passion. And the longer that he's out there, the team is in much better shape. So I'm expecting more big things from him. And I imagine that he's going to take the necessary precautions and necessary steps to take care of himself this offseason and come back ready to play nearly, if not completely, full season in 2023-2024. Well, we're going to close out the show here in just a second and talk about what Roope Hintz's role on the team looks like next season. Should there be different expectations now that he's going into his first year of his new contract? We'll talk about all of that coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is also brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit, and it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right, so the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know if the part will fit or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are fully guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Closing out today's player evaluation episode covering Roope Hintz, a phenomenal year this past year. Missed a few games, and hopefully that will become an issue of the past as time continues to go on, as Hintz now enters the first year of his new 8-year contract where he'll be making over $8 million a season. I imagine he's excited for this coming year. Stars fans should be excited. As we touched on at the end of the first segment, Hintz is in the prime of his career at age 26, where he still has a good amount of youthfulness and a good amount of speed, but he's been around the league long enough that he knows his way around. He's not a young rookie or young player that's going to get pushed and bullied around. He's gained the respect of his teammates and gained the respect of plenty of players and coaches across the National Hockey League. And of course, the expectation as of right now is for him to come back and center that dominating Dallas Stars top line of Roope Hintz, Jason Robertson, and Joe Pavelski, what has been one of, if not the best line in hockey over the past 2 or 3 seasons. And if Roope Hintz is centering your top line, regardless of who's out there with him, you're at a pretty good starting point. But you put a nearly 50-goal scorer on one side and a guy who just refuses to age and a guy who can go out and get 20 points or 20 goals rather in a season at age 38, 39, I think that you're going to be in pretty good shape with that mix and match of speed, hockey IQ, and goal scoring ability in one trio. And it's not really, I don't think, talked about too much just with Roope Hintz, the influence that he has had on a guy like Wyatt Johnston. That's been something that we've discussed on guys like Pavelski, opening up his home for Wyatt Johnston during the season. Jamie Benn, of course, playing alongside Johnston for the majority of the 22-23 campaign. But Wyatt Johnston is a young center here in the NHL, playing the same position as Roope Hintz. And even though it might not have been discussed at length too often, you have to imagine that there's been some pretty good chemistry there. And I imagine some good influence from Hintz down to Wyatt Johnston. And I'm sure Johnston is able to take notes mentally and learn a thing or two from watching Hintz and how he operates during practice, during games, and probably even off the ice as well, with whatever time they've been able to spend with one another. Roope Hintz, certainly not a terrible guy to take notes after when you're trying to find your footing in the NHL, like a guy like Johnston might be. And hopefully that continues to be the case as younger guys continue to pour into the organization from the prospect level, whether that be Maverick Bourque, Logan Stankoven, or really anybody else, whether they play the center position or not. I think if any forward look to model their game after Hintz, I think that'd be a pretty good place to start. In terms of expectation for, where we should envision Hintz this season, I think it's pretty realistic to expect 30 plus goals from Hintz for the next few seasons. And again, you'd really like to see some more longevity in terms of health. You'd like to see him play that full 82 game schedule, or maybe get back up into, the 78, 79, or 80 games played. And you'd really like to see him take that next step and surpass that 40 goal threshold. It doesn't necessarily mean a ton. I'm sure even to him, he just wants to do whatever he can to help the team win. But he's just been so close, and that he's very capable of doing it if he's able to get a few extra games under his belt. But you mix 40 goals from him, and you're probably, realistically looking at another near 40, if not even more, goal season from Jason Robertson. And especially under the Pete DeBoer system, this could be another year. We're talking about Dallas being one of the most dominating and intimidating offenses in the league. And as long as Hintz continues to be the center of the attention on that top line and the top six, this Dallas team is going to be very difficult for opposing teams to game plan against. And it's going to be incredibly fun to see where Hintz continues to take his career after one of the more impressive Stars playoff performances we've seen in recent memory. Just so dominant and really could take control of games. Just wish we could have seen it a little more in that series against the Vegas Golden Knights. But as we're seeing here in the Cup final, the Golden Knights, a very legit team and giving trouble to just about everyone they faced here in the postseason. And the Dallas Stars maybe have been the team that have played them the hardest up to this point. We'll see what the Panthers are able to do here with the remaining games, or maybe just remaining game left in the NHL season. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you so much again for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Remember to subscribe to the show on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. We're always free and available no matter where or how you choose to listen. You can also find and follow us on social media. Just search Locked On Stars on Instagram and Twitter, as well as my personal Twitter account at Dane_Lewis. We'll be back all throughout this week with more player evaluations and, of course, any other storylines that present themselves surrounding the Dallas Stars this offseason. We're getting a little bit closer to the draft, which the Stars don't have a first-round pick, but we'll still have some prospect episodes lined up for you about guys that the Stars could potentially take in the second and or later rounds of the draft. Free agency right around the corner. Trades are already happening here with the teams that are not in the postseason. We've seen teams like Philadelphia and Los Angeles and Columbus go ahead and get their hands dirty with some trades. We'll see what the Stars are up to over the next few weeks, but I hope you guys enjoy your Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.